Hey, you guys, Mrs. Morell here with your eighth grade science recap for Thursday and Friday, October 15th and 16th. Today, we continued our discussion about continental drift, and honestly, the best thing I can tell you to go back and do is watch the Alfred Wegener "You Are a Silly Little Man" song, because that actually covers everything. So in class today, if you were absent, here's your recap video. We did our warm-ups today, which were about layers of the earth and continental drift. We reviewed continental drift. So here is a slide deck with some teacher audio explanation on it. But again, my favorite thing to do is go back and watch the Amoeba people sing about Alfred Wegener, because they will tell you that Alfred Wegener came up, worked around 1910, 1912. He looked around and he saw four lines of evidence that Earth's tectonic plates moved. The first and most obvious is that the continents look like they used to fit together like a jigsaw puzzle, like the east coast of South America with the west coast of Africa. They fit together really nicely, like maybe they were stuck together at one point or another. Another piece of evidence that he used was the fossil record. There are fossils of Glossopteris and Lysopteris and all sorts of other organisms that we find in places where they shouldn't be. So, for instance, we find tropical plant fossils in Antarctica, which we know is not a tropical environment. And if you look at a map of Pangaea, like is in the slide deck that we gave you, we show the path of that fossil record, and it becomes really, really clear that unless all of those those plates used to be connected in Pangaea, there's no way that those fossils would be where they are now. So the fossil record, the shape of the continents, and then he also looked at the climate record, climate indicators in the geological history that tell us, it used to be really cold here, or it used to be really hot here. So we know that continents have moved, relatively speaking. Another thing that he looked at is Earth's actual geologic history, the strata, the layers of the Earth. They match up. If you look at the eastern coast of South America and the western coast of Africa, the actual layers of the Earth line up together as if they used to be connected. And very similarly to that, we find hydrocarbon deposits in places that, like on the east coast of the United States and Newfoundland and Greenland, we find the same sorts of hydrocarbon deposits that we find in the North Atlantic, the west coast of Europe and Great Britain and those places. So the four lines of evidence were the fossil record, the shape of the continents, evidence for climate change, and the geologic formations, the strata, and also the hydrocarbon deposits. So Wegener looked around and saw all of this and went, hey, it's really obvious that the continents used to be one big supercontinent, and they have since moved away from each other. And he had all this great evidence for it, but what he was missing was the mechanism by which the continents, the Pangaea broke apart, and then the continents began moving. And so basically he was laughed out of science. He was completely discredited. He died in Greenland, an outcast from the scientific community. And then 30 or so years later, after World War II, during World War II, sonar was developed, underwater sonar. And after the war, we began using that technology for peacetime purposes, and one of which was to map the ocean floor. And a guy named Harry Hess came along and said, wow, look at this. There's a great big divergent boundary with a giant chain of volcanic mountains there. I guess Alfred Wegener was right. The plates are moving. In fact, they're pulling apart under the Atlantic Ocean. So 30 years after the fact, after his death, a lonely, miserable man because he had been kicked out of science, Alfred Wegener was completely vindicated and his theory proven to be correct. So continental drift is Alfred Wegener's theory that the plates move around on the surface of the Earth, on the asthenosphere specifically. He had lots of evidence, 4 lines of it. Check your slide deck for the evidence. He did not have the mechanism, though. And when we did develop the mechanism, thanks to Harry Hess, we call that plate tectonics. So continental drift is just the continents drifting. Plate tectonics is continental drift plus convection, which is why they drift. So here is a Kahoot to help you review Earth's layers and continental drift. We have a test over this material on Monday and Tuesday of this next week. So please be sure to look in your science journal, check your learning targets and your unit organizer, and make sure you've covered all the material. Then for homework, we asked you to complete your warm-up submission for the week and to complete an assignment where you predict, based on past modeling, where will Dripping Springs be in the future. So click on this assignment, open it up, and take a look. All right, everybody. Hopefully this will get you where you need to be. Have an awesome day.